And welcome to another episode of the Rorschach Tests podcast. I am your host, Tyrell James. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Frank Ellypsis. How are you doing, Cuzzo?
I'm doing great, cuz everything is good. It's been a wonderful day.
That's good. That's good, man. So, you all heard me call him Cuzzo. He called me Cuz. This is such a special uh episode for me because I'm not going to get into the entire history and the entire story, but I will just say since I was a little boy, I have been looking for a whole side of my family that I didn't even know existed. Well, let me say the part of my identity that I didn't even know existed. A lot of you all, you know me as Tyrell James because that is the name that I have, but my biological last name is Young. And without getting into all of the details, I did the whole ancestry thing, and then I was able to connect with my family, the Youngs. I have never like this is like we just connected last week,
Right.
just last week. So this is really special to me that I've been able to connect. This is my first cousin. My father and his mother, they are brother and sister. So this is a very special episode for me. This is my first episode in over a month. I had to take a bit of a break, but this is the perfect way for me to return to the show. So, um, Frank, I want you to just go ahead and what I do here is I'm going to put up a series of Rorschach Test podcasts. I'm sorry, Rorschach Tests. And I am going to ask you what it is that you see. So based off of what you see, I'm going to link it to who you are and to your passions and to what you do for a living. So we're just going to just kind of, I want you to just let everybody know exactly who is Frank Ellipsis.
Okay. Let's say foundationally, Frank Ellipsis is a moniker that I use in reference to poetry. Okay. I've been writing pretty much short stories and then, traveled into poetry since the age of 5. It's been a long time since I've been writing. For me, I started delving into the performance aspect of it as far as doing spoken word a little bit later in my life. I would say in my 20s is when I started doing, spoken word poetry, going to different open mic spots, what may have you. I've, done a little bit of traveling around the world, especially in reference to my regular job. I'm actually a part of the U.S. Armed Forces. I'm not going to say specifically what branch, but I'm a part of the U.S. Armed Forces. And I've been in the U.S. Armed Forces for a little under 12 years now. Also, the specific job that I do in the service is in reference to IT related stuff. So, information technology, anything dealing with networks, dealing with computers, a little bit of programming here and there, so on and so forth. Um, Also, for me, when it comes down to the performing arts, I have a great passion for it. I do sing. I was classically trained, to sing when it comes down to classical music. Yes, singing operas and arias, stuff like that. So I'm very. My background is very eclectic, as I like to say. There you go.
All right, sounds good, man. So we have here. I'm just going to be sitting. I'm going to be taking notes because, of course, trying to. I'm like a psychologist right now. I got my pen. I got my pad.
Okay.
Which reminds me. See, this is what happens when you take a month off. I have a disclaimer, and I got to
Okay.
put my disclaimer out there. So my disclaimer is, I am not a therapist, nor am I qualified to psychoanalyze you. However, I'm gonna
Mhm.
do it anyway. So.
Okay.
So got my pen, I got my pad. I'm going to be taking notes. I've already started taking notes.
Hmm.
So what we're going to be focusing on. So you got military, you have IT,
Hmm.
um, poetry, performing arts, singer, classically trained.
Yes.
Anything else you want to throw in there?
Uh, let's see. Um, I, am a creator, I'll say, influencer, some people will say influencer creator when it comes down to content online. I also have a podcast myself.
Hmm.
Let me just kind of put that out there. Podcast is called the Real Raw Exchange Podcast. I do it with, a couple of friends of mine from college and also high school. So we just, one time decided to, come together. I came up with the idea of, wanting to do a podcast because a lot of stuff that I like to talk about, I like to go into the nuances of, various topics. So got up with a couple of friends of mine and they were like, oh, okay, why not? So that's how that podcast came to be. In addition to me having not only that, as far as, different media platforms and also YouTube, I also have, my own YouTube channel when it comes down to Frank Ellipsis YouTube channel, where I, have various, poems on there that, I've done over the course, certain amount of time. But I'm planning on, expounding upon, how I will want to present the poems that I've written. So,
Right.
yeah.
Got you. Got you. Okay. All right. Cool, man. So I added podcaster, creator, and influencer to
Mhm.
the list of things. Okay. All right. So we're now going to go ahead and get into one of these Rorschach tests. All right. So tell me exactly what you see here.
Okay. Wow. I see a ballerina twirling in the middle while a bunch of ones within the crowd on the sides are cheering her on.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm trying to see that ballerina. I mean, I definitely see the people on the sides cheering her on, but I'm trying to see the ballerina.
Mm. Well, mind you, when it comes down to ballerinas, as far as the point of the toe, very
Hmm.
prominent as far as getting good technique, good form. So I definitely see that.
Okay. Um, do you see anything else? And the thing is, you can kind of pull back and tell me what you see in totality, or you can actually break it up if you see other things.
Okay. Uh, let's see. I I would also say that I kind of see. I'm not gonna say it's a particular head that I see, but as far as the head, I would say it could, potentially be one of the ogres, within Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I definitely say that as far as facial expression,
Hmm.
and also size of nose. I'll definitely say that.
You said a nose.
Yeah, size of nose.
Okay.
What's your nose?
Um. So
Yeah.
with the ogre that you see from I've never seen the movie, so or any of them. So
Mhm.
what exactly about um let me see, what am I trying to say here? Tell me about the ogre. I'm gonna take this off for a second.
So the ogre that I think about is one of the ones that was trying to, I guess, murder Frodo in reference to the acquisition of the ring. So
Hmm.
there are many different ones, but the one I'm talking about, had a very very large head, and just completely ugly in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like the only person that would love the ogre is his mom. So that
Okay.
more so ugly in the face. Definitely a lot of pus spots, different boils on the face, so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
as far as me being able to see the image of the ink blot, I would definitely say that also puts that image in my mind as far as seeing the ogre's face.
Got you. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Let's start with the ballerina.
Okay.
Um, Ballerinas are graceful. You said you saw her twirling. There
Yes.
is a bit of a rhythm. There's rhythm that comes with that.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking of the rhythmic. I guess the rhythm that comes with poetry.
Mm.
Let's connect that to poetry right
Hmm.
now. So, what exactly? First, let's say what exactly got you interested in poetry. What started you writing?
what started me writing, as I said before, I used to write short stories,
Hmm.
like small stories, when I was a kid, and I always liked to be able to tell a story, from start to finish, start, climax, decrescendo, obviously speaking Italian when it comes down to the descending climax, and then the end of the story, as far as the main point, or
Hmm.
whatever moral you can get from the story. So for me, going from that to now writing poetry, I thought was fairly easy, because I took poetry as being able to tell a story, or being able to share some knowledge with someone about whatever particular topic that I wanted to share at the time, in addition to having a belief in being what I like to call unapologetically honest, you know,
Hmm.
because you can be unapologetically honest and still be respectful, still have this sense of how can I say, stoicism, being very stoic, and being able to convey a message, and also get other people's respect in the way you're conveying that message. Now, on a spectrum of how to convey a message, I'm in belief on being as bland as possible, all the way to saying exactly what you need to say to get your point across,
Right.
where it can go from you know conveying a message in church to conveying a message in a strip club,
Okay.
you know, where of course within the spectrum there are varying, audiences that
Hmm.
you have to talk to, where also the passion that I have when it comes down to language, and being able to talk, being able to convey, being able to talk in front of people, that's
Hmm.
one of the biggest things that I enjoy doing. um, I use poetry as a means to get people to think about stuff that maybe they've never thought about before, or being able to break things down in topics that they have thought about before, but they never broke it down into other details that now I will expose them to get them to think in a broader perspective on that topic, or just about things in life as a whole.
Hmm. Okay. You know what? You're good, because where I was about to, the question that I was leading into, you have already answered. I was gonna I was gonna talk about graceful creativity.
Yes.
That's what you see with ballerinas, and then I was just going to kind of lead into that with poetry.
Mhm,
You have a certain level of graceful creativity when
mhm.
you are writing poetry, and I was going to ask you, how do you get to that point, during your writing process? But I feel like you pretty much summed that up.
Mhm.
I was You're good, you're good, but you know what though? We got the same blood, so
Hey, there you go.
I
There you
expect nothing less. um Now, all right, this ogre, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this ogre. But so you
go.
said so the ogre is ugly, right?
The ogre is ugly, and also the ogre, has a lot of how can I put it? Aggression, to him. That
Okay.
the ogre is, in my opinion, that other side of me,
Hmm.
in reference to the conveyance of chaos, but being able to do it in the most graceful way, which goes back to maybe the ballerina.
Right. But
Mm,
I want to go to the military now.
mm,
So
okay.
it's ugly, it's a monster. I assume that there is a certain level of aggression that you have to have once you're going into the military. I've never been in the military, but I'm just assuming, with all of the things that you have to deal with, all the
Mm,
things that you have to go through.
yeah.
um so I understand that there is a lot that you can't talk about when it comes to the military. So
Hmm.
um I'm going to try my best to stay away from those questions, but um, do you have any stories about sometimes when that monster had to come out of you, or that aggression had to come out of you in the military?
Definitely when it came down to what will be considered basic training,
Hmm.
across the board. Um, the How can I explain it? The pathology of starting a conditioning process.
Hmm.
Conditioning process. I say conditioning process because you have to be essentially, and goes for all branches, basically trained to be the version that that military branch wants you to be.
Hmm.
And there are certain tactics that are used in reference to breaking you down and then
Hmm.
building you back up, but then also building you up to what extent, where the building up process is a continuous cycle of you going through the amount of time that you're actually in, where a lot of people will believe, oh, well, you end up being built back up during that particular time frame of being in basic training. I don't believe that's the case because the conditioning is a continuous process as you go on in time with continually being around others that are or have been privy to that same level of conditioning. They are just on their own individual paths to come all together to be of one mind, which oftentimes goes back to the dynamic of mission accomplishment.
Hmm.
When you are deployed, when you go to a location that pretty much, let's just say, the people there are looking at you like, you're not supposed to be here. Why are you here? And now you're there to serve whatever mission that you have been given and accomplish that mission. You know, now comes the time, all the training that you have gone through, all the conditioning that you have gone through, you need to put it into action. And that's where said ogre needs to reveal himself or reveal herself.
Got you. So it's more of a controlled monster.
Mm,
It's when the monster is sitting there and it's dormant until it's time for the monster to come out.
you can say that. I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Got you. And we know that, with military, unfortunately, sometimes you have to go to war and you have to do things that you may not necessarily want to do, but you're fighting for a cause, fighting for a reason. And unfortunately, you have to be a monster at times, or you could be viewed. Let me say that you could be viewed as a monster for what you're doing. The crazy thing is, you can be viewed as a monster and a hero for doing the exact same thing. It just, it
Absolutely.
just depends on who's looking.
Depends on who's looking and what narrative they have in mind
Right.
on what they choose to see or what they choose to delve into.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. All right. Before we get a little too deep into it, before we start revealing some secrets of Black Hawk Down or something, we're gonna we're gonna move on.
Okay.
All right. I'll put up another Rorschach test for you. All right. Tell me what you see here.
Mm, okay. Splitting the bread of a grilled cheese.
Okay.
Because I mean, like as far as grilled cheese, especially if it's some, really good gooey cheese, right? You know,
Uh,
it's gonna, spread apart, and slowly the melted cheese slowly, spreads itself apart also. So that's definitely one thing I see.
okay. You see anything else?
Okay. I can also hmm, I can also see a blind gerbil.
A blind gerbil?
Yeah, a blind gerbil.
Oh,
Because
you?
I can see the teeth of the gerbil, but the gerbil has been blinded in a certain way as far as the eyes of the gerbil. So, yeah, blind gerbil.
Okay. All right. So you were determined to make this as hard as possible for me. Okay.
I'm not because as soon as you tell me to look at it, hey, what pops in the head, boom, I'm gonna tell you. So,
But I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you what I love about these tests is that people look at the exact same thing and see completely different things. And I love, like, especially when people start breaking down the parts of it, and they explain to me what they see,
mhm,
and then I start to see what they see. And then I show the exact same test to somebody else, and it's something completely different. And then they explain to me what they see, and I start to see what they see. That's
right.
the cool thing about this, man. And the crazy thing is, actually, nobody has ever seen that or anything close to what you just said. But
Mm,
I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, I can see a blind gerbil. Like, this is this is crazy the way you did that. But I'm going to start with the grilled cheese sandwich. Let's
mhm,
talk about military food.
mm, mm.
I've
So,
heard that military food isn't all that great.
um, you know what? Let me put it like this. Um, I believe with the amount of time that I've eaten what are called MREs, which stands for meal ready to eat.
Okay.
Um, the modern versions of MREs, I've been eating MREs for a very long time. Now, the only thing that I would say when it comes down to MREs is they don't specifically have a grilled cheese sandwich. However, if you want to be innovative when it comes down to how to use an MRE, you need to make sure you get up with one of your buddies who has an MRE also, and he has a packet of jalapeno cheddar. Okay. And
Okay.
then you could get two pieces of bread, right? That you will have one piece of bread and one MRE, and then the other piece of bread you get, from a buddy, y'all switch maybe a packet of coffee or something, with that piece of bread. And
Mhm.
then you got two pieces of bread and that jalapeno cheddar packet, right?
Uh-huh.
Now you also have what is called one of those heaters, the heaters that are within the MRE, where all you need is a little bit of water, and the heater, I gotta say the heater, white packet that the water has to go on for it to heat itself, and then the plastic bag that you end up putting said food in, but you have to make sure that the food is in one of the plastic packets that inevitably the food is sealed in. So when you can have all of those elements and be able to heat up that bread with the jalapeno cheddar packet,
Mhm.
on the bread. I'm just saying.
So you got to be creative. Like, what they give you it's really what you make of what they give you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Got you. So, all right. All right. Sometimes you just got to spice it up. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like going to the grocery store. You buy what you buy, but you take it home, and
Mhm.
it's the seasonings. It's what you do to it, that how you doctor it up. That's what makes it good. Got you.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Cool. That's interesting. That is really interesting. I've heard of some interesting ways of people doing some creative things in jail with food, but I've never heard it as it pertains to the military, though.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. There are a lot of parallels between military and the penitentiary.
Hmm.
There are a lot of parallels. The
Tell
only
me
thing,
more.
the only thing, well, here's the thing. So in a penitentiary, you essentially have given your life away because you've committed a certain crime.
Hmm.
Military, you've given your life away to your country so you can serve
Hmm.
it. In prison, you stay, in a cell. Okay.
Hmm.
In the military, you stay, depending on what they call it, you stay in a barracks. It can be called. However, some of those barrackses have been modeled based on jails.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Hmm.
In prison, the CO of the floor, right,
Hmm.
tells you what to do. In the military, you have a CO, a commanding officer, that tells you what to do.
Wow. I have a feeling you could do this all day.
I literally have like 12 more in my head. I can go down the list and just pinpoint, just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And so I don't know if you can answer this question,
Mhm.
but when you get out of jail, you have this freedom. You're free. You broke away from the shackles. Do you think that you would feel like that getting out of the military?
In the military, once you have served your time, there is something called a DD 214.
Hmm.
That is a document stating that you have served your time and you have a certain discharge saying how you have served your time. So, could be another parallel,
Yeah. Yep. And essentially, you have your freedom at that point. Your
right?
time has been served. Yeah. Okay. Got you. Okay. Um, let's get to this blind gerbil. Um, boy, this one's rough. Let's see here. Gerbils. Gerbils are animals. We technically are animals because we're mammals and mammals are animals. So blind. Now you went into, let's go to IT,
Okay.
information technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you went when you first got into this. I, I'm I'm testing myself here because
Okay.
I initially wanted to go to the military with the whole blind thing,
Hmm.
but I decided at the last second to try to test myself, try
Yes.
to see if I can go somewhere with this whole blind thing with IT.
Hmm.
So with IT, do you first? Let me ask you this: with IT, are you able to tell me what you do with IT? Like,
I mean, like, you have your basic things as far as being able to support a mission, or give support to different military personnel that
mhm,
don't do the job that you do. Um, Most of the stuff that I do, I can say because most of the stuff that I do is commercially based.
okay,
So, thinking about Microsoft or, CompTIA certifications or, even Cisco when it comes down to the Cisco company or, things of the such as far as different gear that I would work on, routers, switches, computers, of course, different software that I would use, your various operating systems as far as like Windows 10, even Windows 11 that just came out, you
mhm,
know, um, coding language, C++, being able to know, how to configure a server, being able to know what operating systems to be able to put on the server, be
mhm,
it a Linux-based operating system or, Windows-based operating system, where you have Server 2019, but then you also have, Linux Red Hat. So it's wide ranging, but majority of the stuff that I do is commercially based. However, what I'm doing as far as a specific mission, I cannot disclose.
right, okay, okay. So you're looking at things. I'm trying to make this connection with the whole blind thing. You're
Mhm.
looking at things that normal people like myself. I'm not savvy when it comes to technology, but things that you see, things that we don't see.
True. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So and that I guess when it comes to that, we're the ones that's blind, not you.
Well, here's the funny thing. I would like to say if there can be a comparison done between the IT piece and the blind gerbil, um, when I first got in the military, I was pretty much, a novice when it came down to my job.
Hmm.
But based on the mind that I have, I was able to understand other senses that I use in reference to learning the knowledge.
Hmm.
Where, yes, I could be blind in reference to IT now, but I still have hearing to be able to hear concepts that help me to be able to understand what I need to do to a computer when a virus is on the computer, what I need to do to a computer to be able to change out a hard drive. What particular things do I need to think about in the scope of troubleshooting when I see what is called the blue screen of death, or when I see on the actual screen for a laptop, there's a blue screen that pops up that has different words on it in reference to it not being able to boot?
So, okay, you said the blue screen of death. That sounds terrifying. What is that?
It essentially is there's something wrong with the hard drive or some type of hardware in the computer itself where it will not start, to the operating system. Where anytime you turn on a computer, of course, the computer turns on as far as what is called the BIOS or basic input output system. That's the small operating system that is burned into the computer itself. But then you have to have another operating system installed onto the hard drive. So you're now able to do other things that are what are considered to be GUI based or graphical user interface based, which is, to give an example, Windows 10, being able to use certain applications, be able to understand, computer literacy as far as how to use a mouse, how to use a cursor in reference to clicking on links, things like that. However, even though we may use a GUI in the background, you also can use certain commands to do the same thing you're doing on the GUI or graphical user interface, which is essentially your windows that you pop up, right?
Hmm.
Be able to use what is called a CLI or command line interface, where there are two different ways to be able to use a computer. But then also, there are ways to be able to do other things with the computer prior to you even booting to an operating system.
Hmm. Okay. I I think that I had the blue. You said blue screen of death, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I had that on my phone a couple weeks ago, man. It just started to overheat and I couldn't get it to work right or whatever. So look, so from now on, anytime anything that has anything to do with technology doesn't work, I'm just going to call it the blue screen of death.
I mean,
So
that's fair, fair. The biggest thing is a lot of people don't understand, a device like this is just a small computer.
right, exactly.
Just the
Mhm.
same as, using a desktop computer is just the same as using this. The only thing is this is just more compact than trying to look around a desktop computer all day.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm. Yep.
both both of them have IP addresses. You
Hmm.
know, an IP address to a computer is akin to a first name to a person.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
and then you have different computers in the world that essentially are talking to one another. Where the IP address is how one computer locates another computer. And then they communicate based on being able to understand where that IP address is. Where I would call your name, hey, Tyrell. And then you would say, hey, Frank. That's essentially a handshake
Hmm.
that we're doing that computers do through IP addressing.
Hmm. Got you. Okay. So I do want to kind of go to where I wanted to go initially with this, which is the military.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
so you did you go into the military blinded or basic training? Did you go into this blinded or did you know what you were about to get yourself into when you when it's a basic training?
Here's the thing. I fairly knew what I was about to get myself into, but
Hmm.
certain aspects of it I was blind to.
Okay.
The reason why I say I fairly knew was because of me being in martial arts at a very young age.
Hmm.
Uh, with being in martial arts and my grandmaster, being in the military, and then various black belts that he raised up being in the military, or more specifically the specific branch that I'm a part of, it was fairly easy for me to understand the stories that I'm gaining over the years and knowing what I'm gonna get myself into. However, um the aspect of what I got into was a little bit different because I'm not infantry,
Okay.
where I'm being trained at a very young age. And a lot of people wouldn't call it training. They would just, call it, oh, it's nice to, be in martial arts,
Right.
depending on who you are. However, so being in that level of training at a very young age and being groomed to more so go the extreme. But then when I get in, and this is no diss, but when
Hmm.
I get in, it's now like you need to calm down, but we're gonna put you in leadership positions because you have that motivation,
Gotcha.
where it's
Hmm.
just like, oh well, certain things are, somewhat easy, not completely easy, but somewhat easy. But then other things, yeah, fairly difficult,
Hmm.
fairly difficult. But there were other things that I thought I would be able to see
Hmm.
based on stories I heard, based on my grandmaster who was in the Vietnam War.
Mm.
Well, I'm hearing stories, but those stories are not mimicking the experience that I thought I would have. But then again, when I thought about it, it's like, well, every individual person who ends up serving has their own individual experience.
Right.
And I had to think about it in that perspective.
Hmm.
I'm in the mindset now of understanding, okay, my experience is my experience, and no one can take that experience away from me.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um, you speaking of which, you just reminded me when you said that what you say, your grandmaster, right?
yes,
Yeah, your grandmaster served in Vietnam. Our grandfather, what I just found out last week, our grandfather served in World War II.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I found that out, I just had this sense of pride. I was like, oh, because I didn't know much about granddaddy,
Right. Right.
and we will talk more about granddaddy. I just want to know all the stories, whatever.
Of course.
But that I just had this sense of pride when I found that out. That was just a sidebar. That is nothing to do with this podcast. I just wanted to brag on granddaddy. That's it. So,
Sure.
okay, all right. I'm about to put up another test here for you. So, tell me what you see here.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. I see two nasty people about to kiss. Here's why I see two nasty people about to kiss, because they already got various nasty things, on their mouth area that I will not disclose, but I think y'all get in the universe what I'm talking about. And they don't care because they are comfortable enough and very, very vulnerable enough to know this is what they like. So they're going to do what they do. Some of the stuff on their face is, food related. And, at times, food is brought in the bedroom and, all of a sudden it disappears in various ways. So that's what I see. I see two nasty people about to kiss.
Okay, is there is there anything else you see, or is that it?
Okay. Let's see. Hmm. how can I say this? I'm now thinking about, Brandon Lee, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son,
Yeah.
the movie The Crow.
The Crow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm definitely, seeing the movie The Crow because it looks like the crow that they had in the movie when it came down to the image of promoting the movie. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That works. So I'm gonna come back to them two nasty people. Um, we I'm gonna start right there with the Crow. So you're in the martial arts. You've been
Mhm.
doing martial arts since you were a kid. What got you into martial arts?
Uh, Technically, my mother got me into martial arts.
Okay.
Well,
Hey, Auntie. I'm sorry. I just wanted to
yeah,
throw
yeah, it definitely.
that.
Here's the thing. So, how can I put it? My mom put me in martial arts. What
Mhm.
got me into martial arts was me being bullied.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay? As early as I can remember, I elementary school, I, you know, it's one of those quiet kids. I didn't, try to, be boisterous or, talk too much, so on and so forth. I had friends here and there, I would talk to them, but I was, a fairly quiet kid if I, didn't talk to my friends.
Okay.
Now, ended up meeting across a few kids that, taller than me, a little bit bigger than me, so on and so forth. And they, started to bully me. They didn't how can I say this? Growing up, I guess, now I still got a big head, but now, it's kind of even out a little bit, just a little bit. But I
Okay.
do got a big head. But back then, small body, probably, same size of head, you know, I had a very big dome. So
Okay.
they would always make fun of my head and everything. And eventually the cracking the jokes or joning
Hmm.
eventually, migrated to pushing, hitting, so on and so forth. And went home and I told mom. And then mom started telling me a story of how um, all of our elders, you know, at one time was in karate.
Hmm.
And eventually, they ended up getting up to a certain belt and, decided to not do it anymore. So, family friend was my grandmaster because of him teaching when my elders were of a certain age teaching them martial arts too.
Hmm.
So it was like, oh, okay, well, he's getting bullied. I can only teach him so much as being mom. I might as well just go ahead and put him in martial arts so he can learn how to defend himself. And
Hmm.
so that's how it happened. And then once I understood, especially Taekwondo, once I understood how to execute certain kicks, you know, and understood how to punch in a certain way,
Hmm.
that's when, uh, how can I say this? One day they came to bully me again, and then it stopped. And then one dynamic that I didn't think was going to happen was now I got other kids trying to challenge me to fight.
Hmm. Okay, hold on. Stop right there for a second because that's where I want to go next with
Hmm.
the two nasty people about to kiss.
Hmm.
So, how many times, or not necessarily how many times,
Hmm.
but if you can share a story about some time that you had to punch or kick somebody in the kisser
Hmm.
and it got nasty.
Mm. Okay. So, as early as I can remember, when I was in fourth grade, I it was this is no this is not this toward certain group of people what but it was this kid who was Mexican
Hmm.
who didn't like me and I didn't like him. I don't know why he didn't like me, but all of a sudden every time I would try to talk to my friends in class, he would try to interrupt me, tell me how he didn't like me for whatever reason. And one thing led to another. Me and him fought,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I remember somewhat how the fight went. So, we say meet each other at 3:15. 3:15 after school. Meet each other over by the library that was beside the school. And so, everybody, ends up knowing, when it came down to our specific grade, because there were, if I remember correctly, there were three fourth grade teachers at the time. And so all the fourth graders, talk to one another, right? And so we meet after school, meet over in the grass field beside the library, everybody circle up, bull in the ring, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they circle up, cheering us on, what may have you. Um, the kid, puts his guard up. I put my guard up. We start, moving toward one another. We throw a couple of swings, kind of blocking, what may have you. And then I end up throwing a kick and I hit his jaw and he falls down. Once he falls down, he kind of turns over to his face. And
Hmm.
so I go and rush and grab him on the ground. While he's on the ground, he's putting his hand in his pocket. Puts his hand in his pocket. He, out of his pocket, picks out a nail that he puts between his two fingers.
Mm.
And so he tries to turn over and punch me with it. And what happened was him trying to punch me with the nail and then me trying to punch him. All of a sudden, he caught me with the nail on my pinky knuckle.
Hmm.
And I still have a scar right here till this day based on the nail that he caught me with.
Wow.
When the nail caught me, I didn't really feel it, feel the scraping of the skin, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or the breaking of the skin. I didn't really feel it, but boom, the nail flies out of his hand. And then I just start ground and pounding.
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of teachers ended up rushing in the circle to pull us apart. And that was the end of the fight.
Hmm.
And then I'm looking at my hand, and now one of the teachers has to take me over to the nurse so I can get stitched up.
Wow. So, like, where can we find this kid now? I mean, like, I don't play around messing with my family, man. Like, what?
I really don't know. All I know is, growing up, I, had a little bit of issues with MS-13s,
Oh.
yeah. So, for me, like, I understand looking at the character of a person now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
but when it comes down to certain things, I have a very great disdain for bullying
Yeah. Yeah.
based on that and other experiences I've had in the past where,
Mm-hmm.
that is, and I put it in this perspective, that is a trigger for me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I see someone getting bullied, I feel like I got to bully the bully,
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I'm with you, man. I've always come to the defense of the defenseless.
Mhm.
So I understand that. I understand. I'm also friends with a few MS-13s though. I'm actually really, really close with one of them. So
Okay. Okay.
um but yeah, man, I got bullied one time. One time. There was this guy named Chris. I was in kindergarten. I was in kindergarten. And I wanted so badly for Chris to be my friend.
Mm.
And Chris would just bully me. So
Yeah.
one day, I guess I got tired of it and I decided to fight back. I finally decided to fight back. And when the teacher spoke to my mother about it, she said, "Look, I just want to let you know Tyrell was in a fight. Um, so I guess they disciplined me. I don't know. I don't remember. But she then said to my mother, I'm so glad that he finally hit him back. Like because I was just like I would just want him to be my friend. And he would bully me, and I would just take it because I
Mm.
just want him to be my friend. But because one day I just got sick of it, I fought back, and the teacher was happy. My mother was happy, and I have not been bullied since. So,
here's one of the biggest things is the aspect of giving a green light to violence. You know,
mhm,
if it's justified. I think that's
mhm,
one of the biggest things that my mom was about, where she was like, and she would always tell me this: if you're gonna fight, just make sure you win. Don't
mhm,
come home a loser.
right.
Like, where the only I can say, I can honestly say this, like the only time that she didn't like me fighting was when there was a situation when I was in, it was fifth grade. It was a situation when I was in fifth grade, and it was based on a girl that I liked. It was based
Mm,
on a girl that I liked, and I was fighting with another guy who also liked the girl.
mhm,
Um, but no teachers or anybody found out about the fight. And I was telling her about what happened, and she was in the mindset of, that's not a reason to fight. Don't fight over no girl.
right.
And then she started talking to me about like details of stuff that I really didn't know yet, but eventually I found out,
Right. Right. Yeah.
but she started talking to me about details of how certain, and I always say some but all, some but not all, how
Okay.
certain, women, girls, they use that in the scope of gaining attention.
Right. Mhm.
And her teaching me that lesson also put me in a mindset of, and I'll put it in this perspective, the difference between different types of attention,
Okay.
where you can have, a woman wanting platonic attention, which
Mhm.
essentially, in so many words, a lot of people understand being put in the friend zone.
Right. Yeah. That was the first thing came to my mind when you said that. Yep.
Platonic attention. Then also, I created also another category, uh, sexist attention,
Okay.
in the scope of, and I'll just put it in this perspective: your IG models,
Mm.
one of the ones needing to, get surgery, or get some fix it flat put in their derriere. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, like stuff like that, where it's not good attention.
Hmm.
It's not the attention that you need if you want attention. It's the attention that you're gaining because you don't know the other ways to be able to get the right attention.
Got you.
So,
Okay.
life
Mhm.
lessons.
Man, that is a huge life lesson, man. And I wish I would have learned that lesson in my 20s instead of learning that lesson,
Right.
over and over in my 20s.
Yeah,
So
true.
now I will say this: I've never fought over a woman,
Mhm.
um, and I never will. The thing, well, I'm married now, so I mean, it's
Hey,
there's no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not. I will fight to protect her,
right. Of course.
but
And that's what you should do. You know,
exactly, yeah. But and I know, that she is the type of woman she would never. I'm like, I ain't worried about her even putting me in a position where I have to worry about fighting over her.
and
That's why I married her.
that is a great point to bring up,
Hmm.
where ones who haven't even learned that dynamic,
Hmm.
know, and they have been within the mindset of selfishness, only thinking
Right.
about themselves, not necessarily thinking about someone else,
Hmm.
scope of, oh, I don't want to put him in danger,
Right. Right.
or I don't want to put us in danger
Hmm.
collectively, because we know we got the crazy ones out there. I mean, I'm just saying they'll they'll Swiss cheese the whole spot,
uh yes. Yes. Yes, they
like
will.
it's nothing, like it's nothing,
Uh-huh.
So
Yep. I'll tell you, I had the closest that I've ever had. Just one little issue one time, and it didn't even come close to turning into anything, but I just had to let her know. There was an issue with a friend of hers on Facebook who was going through a divorce, and the guy that her friend was divorcing was posting these things on Facebook, and making it appear as if it was something other than what it was. And
Projecting yourself as the hero. I like
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he was doing. Exactly what he was doing. And she commented, I mean, I don't think it could have just been like the eye roll emoji or something. I don't remember what it was, but I had to tell her, like, baby, you can't do that because, and he and I, we were cool. We're not like best friends, but we were cool. But the thing is, if he says anything to you, now I have to intervene. So you can't do it. Now, thankfully, he didn't. He didn't. I don't know if it was he had enough respect for me, enough respect for her, or enough fear. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, I was glad that he never said anything. But I said to Larry, I'm like, baby, you can't do that because that could, that could spark something. Because if he says anything to you, I'm I'm gone. Like that's
I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, I don't think we grew up in the, and I'll put it in this perspective. I don't think we grew up in the era where, the whole social media thing, keyboard warriors type,
mhm,
like, you doing clicks to,
right,
acknowledge how you want to mess up somebody and all that other crap. Like, I
right,
didn't grow up in that. Like, I'm
right,
not gonna argue with you over a social media platform.
right.
I don't, and it's whack to me.
Hmm.
It's like you spending time. And here's the thing: time is one of the most precious things on the face of the earth.
Absolutely,
You're
absolutely.
spending time to argue with someone you oftentimes don't know.
Hmm.
But then if you do know them, what is the point of arguing with them or talking crap
Hmm.
online when in most cases you have their number to be able to call them up and let them know exactly what you feel?
Exactly, exactly. Yep. And I'm all for not putting on a show on social media. There have been some things that people have said, or things people have said on social media,
Mhm.
and I don't respond on social media. If I have their number, hey, we need to talk.
Hey,
If I don't have their number, it's a private message. Hey, listen, what's up? We need to talk.
hey,
I'm
what's
not
going
going to put on a show for social media. I'm not. Nah, we. This is again, like you said. I'm not from that era. I'm not from that era of hey, let's go back and forth on social media. I'm from the era of knocking on your door.
on? Hey,
Like
home? Hey,
we got to talk.
I find out about what you said. Come on out so we can actually talk.
Right.
That's what you really want to do. If you really want to talk. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. 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 So, all right, man. Well, look, I'm going to look. We have been doing this for 58 minutes, and from the conversations that you and I've already had, we know we can talk and talk and talk and talk, and we'll forget this is a podcast. We'll go on and on.
We just
So,
keep rolling.
so we're going right. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But before we do, before we even do that,
Mhm.
I have I have a couple of games that I like to play
Okay.
with my guests. So I want to play this game called Probably Not But What If.
Probably not, but what if? Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So we haven't even really talked about your podcast too much. And but I want to say this. Your podcast, this podcasting thing, it's still fairly new. It's just a few years that this thing has been going. So podcasting is still new. There are a lot of people who are getting like these major deals. Like it's a lot of money out there for podcasting.
This is true.
So, but I want to ask you if you had the opportunity to take your podcast to another level. I mean, where you get like a multi-million-dollar deal for your podcast, right? But probably not. But what if? you had to engage in martial arts with your grandmaster in order to get that deal, would you do it?
Um, it's not morally sound for me to do that.
Gotcha.
It is not morally sound for me to do that. And this, speaking on, my podcast, Rorschach Change, like one of the biggest things that I let all of my podcast hosts know, podcast members know, if there comes a time where I have to compromise my morals and values
Hmm.
in reference to making this podcast flourish, that will be the day that I will let y'all know I will discontinue doing this.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Because
we really are related.
there's a, and one of the big things now, and I mean, we can even talk about it in the scope of hip hop. You
Hmm.
know, a lot of people, say, well, I'll put it in this perspective. A lot of people say, like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, all these various artists, that are in the mainstream are definitely hip hop. Nah, they just rap. They don't understand the culture of hip hop.
Right.
They just rap. They understand what to do.
Hmm.
They do it in the scope of putting out certain content. However, they are restricted to their contracts as far as what content they are allowed to put out,
Right.
which stunts their creativity.
Hmm.
Where the biggest thing is, what are you willing to do to make that coin? As my wife says, make that
Hmm.
coin. What are you willing to do to make that coin? What level will you go to compromise who you are for money that's going to be here after you kick the bucket?
Right.
Like the whole saying, you can't take, was it you can't take a whole bunch of money, in a hearse. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you can't take money with you to the grave. I
Right.
mean, you can, the Egyptians tried to do it, and they,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it was Eddie Griffin who made a joke. The Egyptians tried to do it, and they still digging them up. You know what I'm saying? Like, where my thing is, it's like money, the concept of money was based on one's, needing to do away with bartering.
Hmm.
So money is just the aspect of getting people to invest in a country or their specific government, where bartering was like, oh, I'll give you these, let's say, 5 chickens for this one cow, you know,
Hmm.
where there wasn't a standard on how to gauge value of a particular item. But currency does that.
Hmm.
Now, how people will say money is the root of all evil. No, the perception of money can be evil based on how you look at it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then
And
how,
and the thing is, people mess that up. It's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money. They mess that all up because it's nothing
well,
wrong with money.
however, yet that is one saying. The love of money, is the root of all evil. But
Right.
then you can have a healthy love of money and understand financial literacy, where
Right.
you're helping your
Mhm.
community to be able
Exactly.
to have others understand literacy in that scope. So
Hmm.
everyone is flourishing the best way they know how within the economy they grew up in. You could do it
Hmm.
that way. That
Right.
could be
Mhm.
love.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then,
The problem is when the love makes you evil. The love of the money makes you evil. That's when the problem comes in. Hmm.
agreed, agreed. I
Hmm.
do. I just, money, you need money to live.
Right.
You need liquid to live, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Now, how you use it is up to you. You know, someone's value of $10 will be different from someone's value of 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone could see 10,000 just the same as they see 10, but
Mm-hmm.
someone can see 10 just the same as they see 10,000.
Right.
It really depends on one, gaining the knowledge that you need to gain to apply,
Mm-hmm.
being that big word alert, being that autodidact that you need to be. It could be that, or it could be you genuinely want to now diminish certain conditioning that you've already gone through and not learning certain things. And now you're on a path to do better for yourself, which inevitably ones around you are going to do better too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. So, man, well, look, we are going to go ahead and wrap up now.
Okay.
But man, this has been great, man. I'm like, I can't tell you how. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, man. I have been back and forth between trying to conduct an interview and trying to contain my excitement about, connecting with my family, and just this is just, like it it hasn't even been a whole week yet
No, no, no.
since we spoke. And I mean, then just the connection there is, you were named after granddaddy, and granddaddy gave my daddy his name, so
Yeah.
you and my daddy have the same name. I mean, and it's just, man, it's just amazing to me, man. This has been this past week has been um very joyous week for me, man. I've really been overjoyed and overwhelmed this entire week. It's just been incredible.
I have enjoyed it also. The
Hmm.
enjoyment that I have is reinforcing the value of family.
Hmm.
You know, it's one of the things that I talk to my wife about a lot. Reinforcing the value of family, and understanding that the only thing that we should be doing in reference to family is growing together and being together in the best way we know how.
Right.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I agree with you, man. Um, so before we get out of here, I
Okay.
want you to let everybody know where they can find. I guess so. The military thing, they don't need to know about the military thing. The IT thing, that's military too. But your podcast, though, let them know where they can find your podcast.
Okay. So you can find podcasts on YouTube. We have, premiering episodes every Monday on YouTube. So the Real Raw Exchange podcast, just be able to look Real Raw Exchange podcast on YouTube, be able to find it on YouTube, be able to find it on Twitter, Facebook, also find it on Instagram. So be able to find Real Raw Exchange podcast on all social media platforms as far as those specific three. Um, yeah, pretty much it. Yeah.
All right.
Also, if you want to find me when it comes down to any of my social media, be able to find Frank Ellipsis on IG, Frank Ellipsis official on IG, and then Frank Ellipsis on Facebook. So,
All right.
yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. So before we leave, I got one more picture that I'm gonna put up here for you, and I want you to tell me exactly what you see here. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh yeah, I see a fact.
Can you read that fact for me real quick?
This podcast is so dope.
And I couldn't agree more. Thank you again, Frank. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being my family.
Yeah.
And I look forward to connecting with you really, really soon, man. I can't wait till you come out here to the East Coast.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I appreciate you having me on your platform, and I'm grateful for this opportunity at this time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here, man. And for the rest of y'all, y'all be easy. You know what? Let me hold on. Let me kind of kill a little bit of time because I got to find my little thing. Yeah, I tell you, it's been over a month since I podcasted, so I'm trying to make sure that I end this the right way. Okay, I found it here. Okay, cool. Now we can end it. All right. And for the rest of y'all, y'all be easy.